There was the live alien that they had taken from the 1949 Roswell crash. Let's hear about that from Bill himself.
The live alien that had been taken from the 1949 Roswell crash was called EB. It was short for extraterrestrial biological entity, and all aliens are not called EB. EB had a tendency to lie, and for over a year would give only the desired answers to questions asked. Those questions which would have resulted in an undesirable answer went unanswered. At some point during the second year of captivity, he began to open up, and the information derived from EB was startling, to say the least. And this compilation of his revelations became the foundation of what would later be finished, called the Yellow Book. Photographs were taken of EB, which among others, I and Bill English were to view years later in Grudge 13. Why do they keep the aliens in a Faraday-shielded environment? Because they have a tendency to disappear right through walls. And if you can prevent the transmission of electromagnetic energy, you can stop them from doing it. In late 1951, EB became ill. Medical personnel had been unable to determine the cause of EB's illness and had no background from which to draw. EB's system was chlorophyll-based, and he processed food into energy much the same as plants. Waste material was excreted almost exactly the same as plants. It was decided that an expert in botany was called for. A botanist, Dr. Guillermo Mendoza, was brought in to try and help him recover. Those of you who have been looking for him on medical lists will not find him there. He was a PhD in botany. Dr. Mendoza worked to save EB until mid-1952 when EB died. Dr. Mendoza eventually, according to the information that I read, became the expert on at least this type alien biology. In a futile attempt to save EB and to try and gain favor with this technological superior alien race, the United States began broadcasting a call for help early in 1952 into the vast regions of space. If you know they're better than you, and if you know they can lick you, you better try and be friends with them. And that's what this effort was all about. The call went unanswered, but the project continued as an effort of good faith. President Truman created the super-secret National Security Agency by secret executive order on November 4th, 1952, and until recent years, there wasn't 1 in 50,000 people in the United States who even knew it existed. Its primary purpose was to decipher the alien communications and language and establish a dialogue with the aliens. This most urgent task was a continuation of the earlier effort and was codenamed Sigma. The secondary purpose of the NSA was to monitor all communications and emissions from any and all devices worldwide for the purpose of gathering intelligence, both human and alien, and to contain the secret of the alien presence. Project Sigma, ladies and gentlemen, was extremely successful. The NSA also maintains communications with the Luna base and other secret space programs. By executive order, the NSA is exempt from all laws which do not specifically name the NSA in the text of the law as being subject to that law. How many of you know what that means? That means we have a completely lawless organization running around the country doing whatever they want to do, answering to no one, and under no law which does not name the National Security Agency in the text of that law as specifically being subject to that law by executive order.
You know, reflecting on what NASA was originally created for and how it was above the law even then, it's no wonder what's happening now with the NSA spying and wiretapping and everything in our business. I think we should be outraged.
And now, let's get back to the text.
Good idea.
All right. The primary task of the NSA is still alien communications, but now includes other alien projects as well. President Truman has been keeping our allies, including the Soviet Union, informed of the developing alien problem since the Roswell recovery. This has been done in case the aliens turned out to be a threat to the human race. Plans were formulated to defend the Earth in case of invasion. Great difficulty was encountered in maintaining international secrecy. It was decided that an outside group was necessary to coordinate and control international efforts in order to hide the secret from the normal scrutiny of governments by the press. The result was the formulation of a secret society known as the Bilderbergers. The headquarters of this group is in Geneva, Switzerland. The Bilderbergers evolved into a secret world government that now controls everything. The United Nations was then, and is now, an international joke.
Of course, the Bilderbergers are still going strong, as you probably know, and they're maintaining control over not only the alien situation, but the whole world governance as well.
What's happening is more and more people in governments, in different European national governments and in the EU government, are realizing that the real decisions are being made at globalist meetings like the Bilderberg Group. And we wrote a story last week at prisonplanet.com titled Bilderberg Group, The Open Conspiracy, because when Jim Tucker was first reporting on this 32 years ago as a U.S. reporter, people made fun of him and laughed at him and said it didn't even exist. Major publications like the New York Times and Time Magazine said it didn't exist. Well, since then, the Bilderberg Group has been forced to go more public and admit that they covertly set up the European Union, that they do want a planetary government, that they do want world government. And so much of their agenda is now promoted by the EU and others. Herman von Rompuy, who's a Bilderberg Group attendee, and of course the head of the EU, has called for global government run by the very central banks that have caused the worldwide derivatives crisis. So yes, just 2 weeks ago, Zbigniew Brzezinski addressed the Council on Foreign Relations and said, for the first time in world history, the entire globe is politically awakened, not to the puppet presidents and prime ministers, but to the real power elite, and that their world government is basically in trouble. And the Council on Foreign Relations, people in the crowd looked very upset. So this Anglo-American Dutch power structure that's hidden in the shadows and used the energy of the U.S. and England to carry out this world government is in trouble, because the American people and others are waking up to the fact that we've been used as the engine of this covert empire. Well, sure. I mean, you get 150 or so. Previously, it was about 125 of the heads of Dutch Shell, royalty, the head of the Dutch Royal House, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all together as really a mafia commission meeting, and they're deciding on any disputes and the agenda for the following year. Because they're already going in the basic direction they want to go, but there's minor tweaks going on. So 2 years ago, I traveled to Virginia and covered the Bilderberg Group, and the intel we got from inside was that Obama had been chosen and that Hillary was going to step down from the campaign. That was done 2 days later after we announced it. We were able to discover that the Bilderberg Group was planning to run gas prices up to $150 a barrel. People laughed at us. It then happened in the next year. The Bilderberg Group said that they'd made deals to have the stage collapse of the Berlin Wall. Jim Tucker reported on that a full year before it happened. Jim Tucker also reported from his Bilderberg inside sources that Bush was going to announce that he did believe in global warming and wanted carbon taxes, and that became a verified, documented truth later. When the Washington Post was announcing that the attack on Iraq was going to be 2002, American Free Press and others reported from their Bilderberg sources that the owners of the Washington Post, Mr. Graham, had attended and knew that it was going to be in March of 2003. That was later confirmed. So yes, the Bilderberg Group is the highest level of world government, but they have their public propaganda that they put out at Davos and at other forums and events. And more, what the secret of Bilderberg Group is doing behind closed doors is more and more being put out publicly because they've now been revealed. They're having to admit their world government agenda, but they're putting a spin on it that it's good and humanitarian. And we cover this in my film, The Obama Deception. But yes, they're in a lot of trouble because the planet is waking up to their covert criminal operation.
Yeah, the Bilderberg Group is real, all right. And it does make all the decisions that are supposed to be made by democratic governments. But these decisions are made by the cabal. They're made by people that aren't elected. And sometimes we don't even know, have never heard of them. So that's the Bilderberg Group. And you can see the origin, even the origins are shady of that one. Now let's get back to the book.
In 1953, a new man occupied the White House. He was a man used to a structured staff organization with a chain of command. During his first year in office, 1953, at least 10 more crashed alien discs were recovered, along with 26 dead and 4 live aliens. Of the 10, 4 were found in Arizona, 2 in Texas, 1 in New Mexico, 1 in Louisiana, 1 in Montana, and 1 in South Africa. There were hundreds of sightings. Eisenhower knew that he had to wrestle and beat the alien problem. He knew that he could not do it by revealing the secret to Congress. Early in 1953, the new president turned to his friend and fellow member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Nelson Rockefeller, for his help with the alien problem. Eisenhower and Rockefeller began planning the secret structure of alien task supervision, which was to become a reality within 1 year. The idea for MJ-12 was thus born. It was Nelson's uncle Winthrop Aldrich who had been crucial in convincing Eisenhower to run for president. The whole Rockefeller family, and with them the Rockefeller Empire, had solidly backed Ike. Asking Rockefeller for help with the alien problem was the biggest mistake Eisenhower ever made for the future of the United States, and most probably all of humanity.
Within 1 week of Eisenhower's election, he had appointed Nelson Rockefeller chairman of the President Advisory Committee on Government Organization. Rockefeller was responsible for planning the reorganization of the government. New Deal programs went into one single cabinet position called the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. When the Congress approved the new cabinet position in April of 1953, Nelson was named to the post of Undersecretary.
In 1953, astronomers discovered large objects in space which were moving towards Earth. It was first believed that they were asteroids. Later evidence proved that the objects could only be spaceships. Project Sigma intercepted alien radio communication. When the objects reached the Earth, they took up a very high orbit around the equator. There were several huge ships, and their actual intent was unknown. Project Sigma, a new project, Plato, through radio communications, using computer binary language, was able to arrange a landing that resulted in face-to-face contact with alien beings from another planet. Project Plato was tasked with establishing diplomatic relations with this alien race of space aliens.
All right, now as an aside, keep in mind that while this all is going on, you're being diverted by Project Blue Book. You're being diverted by ridicule if you happen to see one of these things. The main gaslighting of the world is well underway.
In the meantime, a race of human-looking aliens contacted the U.S. government. This alien group warned us against the aliens that were orbiting the equator